Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Casual Metal Podcast. My name is Dan,
I'm Brian.
and we are here tonight to talk about Failure, or
Yeah.
more specifically, Converge's album, You Fail Me.
Yeah.
Man, this record is just, I'm not going to spoil my thoughts within the first like 20 seconds of this record, but Tall Order with You Fail Me.
Yeah.
A lot of people, including myself, their first exposure to this band was probably Jane Doe,
Yeah.
which was, probably still their most popular record. I don't think it's their best record, but I do think that it is their most popular for sure,
Yeah.
for good reason. And You Fail Me had the tall order of having to be the record that came out after Jane Doe.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, we're already here, so we don't need to beat around the bush. That's why I wanted to talk about this record. That was my suggestion. Like, we could talk about Jane Doe. It's a god tier record, but
right.
like, you fail me. How do you follow that up?
Yeah, and again, spoilers. We're just being casual here, okay? There's no structure. There's a little like we're gonna get into me and Brian how we got into Converge and all that good stuff, but like just to front load this conversation, they just did not try to follow up Jane Doe.
No.
They did not do what most bands do. They did not try to recapture the magic
Yeah.
or anything like that. But thankfully, in Converge's case, they had a very long history and a long musical evolution, and so it's kind of one of those deals where they had a lot of inspiration to draw from,
Yeah.
new inspiration as well as from themselves from the past.
Yeah.
So we will get into that. But first of all, I have to ask this question. It's vitally important to me. Brian, how's your week?
The week is been long. My wife has been out of town all week for work, which is fine, but it creates for a long week. How about you, Dad?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like when my wife was gone for 3 weeks on a vacation, it's such a weird combination of man, this is awesome, but then also this kind of sucks. Like
Yeah.
there's a reason I didn't choose to live my life alone, right? Like uh so that creeps in. My week's done really well. Has been going very well. DFT videos have been flying out. The DFT fans are eating really good lately. I feel like I need to take like another 4 month break or something because it's getting a little out of hand. But and speaking to that, the elephant in the room, obviously there has been a big gap between this episode and the Lorna Shore episode. Both of those episodes are going to come out pretty much the same day,
Yeah.
but they were not recorded at the same time. They were recorded during a somewhat turbulent time. I still don't even know how that Lorna Shore episode sounds. So
I'm
it'll
sure
be
I'm sure it's great.
I'm sure it's 100% perfect. I did it with no headphones, no monitors, nothing. So Brian was just talking to me out loud through my computer speakers, and we had a good time talking about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, man, my week's good. I'm stoked to be talking about a record that I love, and I'm
Yeah.
stoked to be back on the casual horse,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I mean, you mentioned Jane Doe as your gateway Converge record, but how'd you come to Jane Doe and to Converge?
I am something of a poser myself, and so a friend at my school told me about Jane Doe, told me about Converge because I was really into. I don't know if you guys have ever heard me talk about these bands. I was really into this band called Zayo. If anybody's ever heard of them, and I remember one time getting into a very heated lunch table argument with a bunch of other kids. There was like this whole table of punks, and like I had somehow worked my way into that group because I liked similar music to what they liked. But I really got into it, right? Because at that age, I must have been like maybe 13, 14 years old, something like that. And so I was like, Zayo is the greatest band to ever exist on the face of the earth. They are the OG originators of metalcore, right? Like spoken like a true youth group kid,
Yeah.
right? Because as far as my universe existed at the time, what I was saying was 100% true. If you were me, it was true, right? My buddy Kurt, he didn't say anything to me while I was like, professing my love for Zayo, but he took me aside a little bit later and he's like, yeah, so you need to listen to Converge. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, all that stuff that you said about Zayo is true, except it's true about Converge and not about Zayo. And now we could split hairs because I could make a pretty solid argument that Zayo is still they're both very, very important to the way
Genre.
this music style. Yeah, the way this
Yeah.
music developed. They don't sound the same. They had very different approaches, but Converge absolutely blew my mind though. He showed me a few seconds of I think it was When Forever Comes Crashing,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, Yeah, I mean, like, you know what I mean? I couldn't have been a fan of the bands I was into at the time and not been very impressed
Yeah,
by Converge. So eventually I went and got Jane Doe. He said that was the record that I needed to get. So yeah, I went and got it, and I remember buying it. I bought it at a Slackers CDs and Games, which is probably local to St. Louis. I bought it, and it was that Slackers was like a pretty considerable drive from my house, so I got to listen to the whole record on the way home. From buying it, which is just the best. It absolutely blew me away. I was instantly a fan. It was one of those, like, if I found an ink pen that was blown up on the side of the road that had a Converge logo on it, I would have picked it up. You
yeah,
know, I was a very big fan. And so Jane Doe was another one of those, like, rewrite your brain sort of albums. There was no break. I say there's no breaks. There's definitely some, like, slower atmospheric songs, like,
yeah.
all over Jane Doe, but it didn't feel good to listen to. You know what I mean? The first time. It seemed almost completely inhuman,
Yeah,
in places. And obviously I liked that about it. So yeah, I listened to that. I collected some of the older Converge albums. And then You Fail Me, I think, was the first Converge album that I bought that was a new release,
yeah.
and I can get into but yeah, I'm gonna flip the question on you then. So how did you get into Converge?
I mean, back in the Mesozoic era of the internet, we had message boards. And so I just remember message boards and like hxc.com, Fine Print Mag, I believe, Buddy had like Buzz Grinder. Everybody's talking about Jane Doe. This record is like super hyped. Jane Doe Converge's new record. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's amazing. So at that time that it was released, my family took a trip to Canada. September 11th happened. We had to stay in Canada for a little bit longer than we anticipated. But when I got back from Canada, I was like, I got to go buy this record. So I drove to Tower Records, picked up Jane Doe, put it in my car. My house from Tower Records, roughly about a half hour. That
Nice.
drive just blew me away. And I was like, instant fan. I love this band. And I saw them live on that tour. Like immediately, you're just like, as soon as the drums kick in on Concubine, you're just like, your face is smashed in, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
so, I mean, that was it. People on the internet being like, "This record is legit." And back in the day, if you wanted to know if those people were telling the truth, you went and bought the CD, and thankfully it worked out. Now, by the time You Fail Me comes out, it's been a few years, but I'm equally excited. Even though my musical listening habits at that point had shifted, I still listened to Jane Doe. I was still going to get the new Converge record, so I did. And yeah, that whole thing of like, what is this band going to sound like? At this point, they had kicked Aaron Dahlbeck out of the band so he could go focus on Bane. So they're down a guitar player already. And you're just like, how do you follow up the record that changes the trajectory of your entire career? And listening to it now, I have some different thoughts. But when I first heard You Fail Me, I was just like, yeah, Converge did it again. Like,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this record really right off the bat, you start with a 1 minute intro,
mhm,
first light. You go into Last Light, and it's immediately a statement is basically made
yeah.
as soon as that song starts, that this is a human record.
Mhm,
Like, so I described Jane Doe as sounding somewhat inhuman at times. Jane Doe doesn't ever like start sounding like feel good until like the last song, and even
mm,
then it's kind of iffy.
yeah.
It's certainly an epic album closer. But so when this one starts off, you've got your more like traditional hardcore vocals,
Yeah.
going. It's got more of a punk rock feel. It's like they made an intentional choice to strip a little bit of the metal out,
Yeah.
to make it more punk and to make it more emotional.
Mhm,
And I really like that. Last Light's still one of my favorite Converge songs, just because it locks into this sort of almost melodic sound towards the end of the song, and it hits you in the feels. You're like, I'm about to feel something,
yeah.
and then you go to read the lyrics, and it's like, oh, it's just a giant paragraph.
Yeah.
What the hell? But I mean, at least, Jane Doe didn't have lyrics in it at all, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that's a step forward.
Jane
And
Doe is a mystery.
yeah, Jake Bannon is actually like singing the words on this
Yeah.
one, which is really cool to hear. I'd say for the first time. I mean, he sang the words in older Converge albums, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, this record just absolutely goes for your heart.
Yeah.
Whereas Jane Doe went for your throat.
Yeah.
And I like that about it. It's a little bit more human. It's a little bit more like artistic too. Like it's there to convey emotion. And while I say it doesn't follow up Jane Doe in the overall sound, a lot of the texturing and like sort of vibe track and atmospheric
Yeah.
elements are very much a large part of the sound on You Fail
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah. I mean, so much of what I think the Jane Doe era brings, I mean, it's the first record with Nate and Ben on Jane Doe, and that all carries over. That is the lineup, right? Minus Aaron from this point forward. The thing with like looking back on the album is how thin this record sounds compared to so much of Converge's discography. It's definitely a harsher record, a lot of high end. And I know Kurt did not produce this record start to finish, and this is the last time. So I have a feeling the band was not stoked on that.
Well, I think that's why their Redux exists,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Um,
right, right.
which I have not heard
I've
at all.
also not listened to the Redux either because I appreciate bands remixing and remastering things to more to their liking. But part of me is just like, yeah, I like the records living in time. I understand there's also financial reasons why you do that, but
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call, right? Because like when Satellite or when Hopes Fall did Satellite Years 2.0, it objectively sounds better than the original record.
I don't think
Um,
so.
well, so I say objectively from like if I was a music producer, I would probably think that it sounds superior. However, that's not the record that I grew up with,
Right.
right? And so
It sounds weird.
it sounds weird. There's vocals that are turned up in places where they were more atmospheric
Yeah.
before, and there's also like vocals that are turned down or missing.
Yeah.
A lot of the really cool like higher pitched backup screams. Sorry, it's a hidden Satellite Years episode, but no, I just and like I said, I don't know if the redux of You Fail Me is to the same degree or not because I just
Yeah.
literally have never even bothered listening to it just because I'm like I got the disc, I'm good to go.
Right.
But yeah, this one sounds a little bit different. It's hard though, right? Because some of those early Converge records sound kind of rough.
Right.
There's some bands where the mixing will bother me. Converge is not one of those bands.
Right. And I mean, this is like when I listen to the discography, that's what stands out to me. And it's not a thing of like in the moment, I didn't notice it. I had it on my car. I cranked it all the way up as loud as I could
Right.
handle and like it's fine. And if I put the CD on, I'm gonna crank it up as loud as I can handle or as loud as my children will let me. And that'll be fine. Cause I just want to listen to Converge loud and it's angry. And this record delivers. It's different because it's not as I don't know. There's a violence of to Jane Doe.
Mhm.
I don't even think that's the right word, but and I don't want to say visceral because You Fail Me is like a visceral record. It is raw. It is in your face. It is
Oh,
angry.
yeah.
It is aggressive. But I mean, you also have like In Her Shadow, which starts out like super ambient and acoustic and low key
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
like
yeah.
like Converge is flexing some muscles and it's like I think this record is like if we peaked, let's take some risks. And I think from this point forward, the band is like we can take risks and bring people along with us. And I think it pays off in dividends.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of self-awareness, where it's
Mhm.
like, no matter what we do, even if they had made Jane Doe again somehow, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they got the 1.21 gigawatts in a bottle, you know what I mean? Like they figured it out. People still would have been like Jane Doe's better. Jane Doe's better. So like this idea of like, yeah, let's just use every idea that we have, do some fun stuff with it, bring back a couple of throwbacks from before. But at the same time, I do think that, you listen to a song like Eagles Become Vultures, the Jane Doe kids are good with that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that. And I think that was like the first video that they dropped, which is
Yeah.
weird too, like seeing Converge videos, like I know they had it, they had them with Jane Doe as well,
Yeah.
but no, I thought that was different. But yeah, this record is still a violent gut punch, especially on the second half.
Yeah.
The first half is a lot more like I was talking about, a little bit more emotional, a little bit feel good, but like the title track You Fail Me is still probably one of my favorite Converge songs
Yeah. 100%.
of
Yeah.
all time. It has its own sonic identity that's like
Yeah.
separate from the rest of the record. Um and
Right.
it's just epic, and it's like what I originally liked about Converge was that they sounded like like just the heaviest, angriest punk rock band you'd ever heard.
Mhm.
right? But with a song like "You Fail Me" and even the ending track "Jane Doe," which is what it reminds me of from
Yeah.
Jane Doe, I like epic Converge. I like apocalyptic Converge, and "You Fail Me" is probably the first time where I was like, okay, this needs to be a category of Converge song.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because you read quotes from that time, and Jake talks about like this is a much more ragier lyrical album than Jane Doe was. It's
Oh yeah,
like, and it's like I like the title "You Fail Me" because it's definitely the theme on the record and dealing with people failing him, but also like this could be just like a tongue-in-cheek joke of just like if this record flopped, people would be like, "Oh, the band just couldn't live up to the hype. The band failed me," right? Like
right,
I
sure,
I love that, but I love like yeah, the hanging moon, the last line on the record is "Be the light in the world of darkness," right? Like,
yep.
it's still like there's something there at the end, a lifeboat to hang on to when everything sucks.
What is it with these dudes and their positivity? You know what I mean?
How
Like,
dare they?
how dare they have any faith? Well, no, and, like, I get it though, right? Because we're at the end of, like, a 35-minute therapy session.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're getting all the negative out. It's the same way I feel about bands like the Acacia Strain, you know? It's like, this is obviously somebody just getting the negativity out so they
Yeah.
don't have to live with it, you know,
Right.
every day. And yeah, so this record is negative and sort of disconnected from humanity as it can seem at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still ends on that positive note, which
Yeah.
just I did grow up as a youth group kid, so oh guys, look at that positive spin at the end. Oh, But what separates this from that is the fact that the emotions that are expressed, the negative emotions are a little bit more relatable, a little bit more real,
Yeah.
and not like cooked up in a factory.
And it would not be the last time Converge dealt with anger and rage.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got no heroes on the shelf. You want me to just just pull it down.
Just dive right into that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's a bonus no heroes episode.
but what are your final thoughts on You Fail Me?
Oh man, yeah, I've rambled a lot. I apologize, guys, if we were not joking when we called it casual. It can sometimes just be a ramble. Yeah, final thoughts on You Fail Me. Pretty much the best they could have done after Jane Doe. There's times because I did a really I did an old DFT's Dungeon episode on Jane Doe, and it was very pretentious. And I was trying to match the level of pretension that was on the record. I think I even mentioned in there that like "You Fail Me" was the antithesis of that. "You
Yeah.
Fail Me" was like, okay, cool, yeah, we got our sort of hipster energy, our I know more than you. You know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
if you don't understand this, then you're just a normie. You don't get it. You don't understand my art. Whereas like "You Fail Me" is more of like I'm hurting and I'm dying on the street. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's very real in a not art school kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I like about it. I think as a human being, I connect better with records like this because I can sit there and look at the awe and spectacle of something like Jane Doe forever. But as far as like, I'm not going to listen to Jane Doe when I'm feeling down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or when I'm
Yeah.
when I'm feeling right upset. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm listening to like "In Her Blood." You know what I mean? Like that's the level of aggression that I'm gonna go
Yeah.
for. And so yeah, I think "You Fail Me" it's a personal top three Converge record for me.
Yeah. It is about as great a follow-up to a record that just elevates your entire band and career as you could hope for. I think it's every bit as angry, it's every bit as heavy and visceral and mean, and the artwork's killer, the lyrics are great. Like Converge cemented themselves as a band that was here to stay and that was not going to mess around with this record.
Totally agree. It's hard talking about these older Converge records because I really like new Converge a lot.
Right.
You know,
I mean, the band never stopped like achieving and stepping up their game and producing cool material.
yeah. I mean, like, dude, when I first heard "Axe to Fall," I was just,
Right.
that's not. I know it's not like a new record, but like, I'm old. Okay, anything that came out in the last 10 years is like 10, 15 years is a new record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, But yeah, no, yeah, this thing just absolutely will hit you right in the feels. But it didn't depress me because like today was kind of a notable day for me because it wasn't the saddest day, but it was like this is my second day off social media. Like I deactivated my Facebook account, and so like
Nice.
yeah, Seth, if you're listening, I did it. I did it, buddy. Anyway, no, but what was funny, I was talking to Travis earlier, and I mentioned, I was like, yeah, today was my second day off of social media. I was like, and what did I do? I drove around. I listened to Converge a lot, and I didn't read anything that upset me. Nothing was pushed on me that that was going to upset me. I didn't have to hear about politics. I didn't have to hear about religion. I didn't have to hear about any of that stuff. I didn't wasn't even checking my YouTube stuff either. So like
Nice.
it was just a really good day of driving around listening to this record. And so like even though the record was like hurting and upsetting and emotional or whatever, like it still contributed to me having a good day because I was just pursuing my own happiness as best as I
Nice.
could, in a
Yeah.
work situation. So that was really cool. So in that
Yeah.
sense, yeah, Converge did not fail me one bit. What have you been jamming this week, Brian?
My
What's your album of the week?
my album of the week is Arch Enemy's new one, Blood Dynasty. I'm back on that kick. That's probably gonna be my favorite record of 2025. I've been pretty well obsessed with it since it came out, and it's a killer record, and it's been in constant rotation once again this week.
Nice.
What about you?
My album of the week probably is also going to be my album of the year. I think this is probably pretty predictable, but it's that Hope Deferred record,
Mm,
Darkness Remains.
nice.
It's absolutely killer. I somehow, in addition to editing these episodes this week, this weekend, I'm going to also be editing my full review of that album. And I'm actually going to try to keep it short because it is a record where I would much rather people listen to the record than listen to me talk about it.
Yeah.
You know,
y-
so yeah, so that I think that's dropping on Halloween, and that record is absolutely gonna blow people away
Nice. Awesome. I'm stoked to hear it.
for sure. Well, Brian, we will confer when we're done recording. You can, as always, you can send us an email at casualmetalpodcast@gmail.com. Nobody has yet. I have been checking it.
Get
So
on it.
yeah, tell your friends, tell your family, and I just want to thank everybody that is new that has joined post announcement, and can't wait to talk about some more stuff with you guys in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see you guys next time.